And I'll be very brief about some of these. So if you want any more information, we can always connect later. Now, Nilesh and Shailesh are good old-time buddies, so we always chat offline or on the site or wherever. Uday, I meet pretty much every second week or so. So we can always connect offline if we want to get into more detail. But this is pretty much pointed, and I'll be going a bit fast here. Okay, so just bear with me. Okay, so one might wonder why we even need to do all this, right? So the whole idea is life's going on. We're all busy with our things. There's stuff to handle. Why would opinion shaping even matter, or how is it even related to any of our well-being? Let alone at a national level, it's too high a level. Most of us don't think at that level. But even for an individual well-being, why does it matter at the end of the day? Why would I bother to get facts, analyze them, have an opinion, or understand who's doing what, understand who's looking out for my interest or not looking out for my interest? So why would any of this matter? Why can't we just do what we're doing and enjoy life at the end of the day? Now, I would say it's actually about enjoying life. Let me tell you why so. And think about it. There's hundreds and billions of dollars that is being spent every year to control your mind. And it's not me saying, and these are quotes of famous people that are saying that, right? And also think about it, that in the present world, technology is not too difficult to acquire. For example, there was a time when maybe only specific countries that invented technology could have ownership over them, and some others could not. So today, in today's world, if somebody invents something, it is not too difficult for it to trickle across geographical borders without much difficulty. It's an extremely doable thing. So you'll see that, okay, whatever technology is available in the US is pretty much in the next week or so available in India also. The gap is not that big. The only difference here is to how many people is it available. So to what level is your society well off that it will be able to make use of these technologies. So that's the key, right? So you must be wondering how this matters still. So it matters here. You're saying, why can't I just go on with regular life and not worry about all of these? But this is your regular life, right? So why do you choose to live in one place against the other? Or why are some countries better in quality of life as against the other? Why is living in some places a pleasure, whereas living in some other places a pain? Because of exactly the factors that you're seeing on the screen here. Infrastructure is better. And I won't name them, but just think of any two countries which are poles apart in any of these, and you'll know why people tend to migrate from one place to the other. Be it internal migration from villages to cities within a country, or external migration from a particular country to the other. So it's always about how good your infrastructure is, how wealthy you are. Let's face it, at the end of the day, finances do matter. So GDP per capita is a reflection of the nation's wealth. That absolutely matters. You can't have pride in poverty at the end of the day. Those won't call them socialist values, but it's just not practical, right? There's no pride in poverty. Cultural confidence does matter, because at the end of the day, if you're not very proud of who you are, you won't get the other things listed out here. It's a fact, and we can debate about it, but today's point is not to get into details of any of this. Having a strong defense does matter, so that way you don't come across as spineless people who can be bullied at every given opportunity. Law and order does matter, so does access to education, healthy coexistence, where people are free to choose their particular beliefs without imposing it on other people, and quality healthcare. I just listed some of these factors. So this is life, right? This is basically how you're enjoying life. And again, the question would come, so still didn't get it. Why would my opinion matter to my national well-being? Because in a democracy, which we are living in, assuming it's not theocracy, not a dictatorship, this is basically what decides your well-being, your elected government, right? So depending on the actions of these set of people out here, because you can't have everyone making laws, there's only representatives that make laws, this reflects directly into all of these factors that I just said. So clearly now we know that there's a direct link between your personal enjoyment that you're doing in everyday life and how comfortable your life is. That has a direct bearing with this elected government. Now, what does this elected government have a direct relation to? With this individual opinion. Like I said, it's a democracy. So if you shape people's opinion appropriately, you can form an elected government which works for you, and vice versa. We've all seen what vice versa is for almost the last 70 years or so in India. So we don't need to get into the details of that. But basically, an individual's opinions matter if an elected government is to be selected that works for you, and an elected government matters in order to have all of these things which make your life happy or unhappy, one way or the other. And this is outside of personal things. Of course, there's personal, spiritual growth, personal relationships. But that is not under that is not under government's control. So that's why I'm not listing them here. But these things do matter, right? And what shapes an individual's opinion? Information. At the end of the day, information, right? Why do you vote one way versus the other? Because of your awareness of historic facts, or awareness of current affairs, or how the dynamics are, who looks out for you, who doesn't look out for you, any cultural awareness that you might have, any stories from the ground that might be told to you. So these are the raw information bits. Okay, so these are the raw information that basically are analyzed, sliced and diced, fed to you, which shapes your opinion. Your opinion, a sum total of individual opinion, rather, results in the elected government. And the elected government ultimately results in these things. And that explains why, in spite of having the same DNA, two sets of human beings can be completely poles apart. And hence, this part is the key to everything, right? This information. Now let's take a look at who controls this. The obvious answer, we all know, right? Without me having to unmute anyone, I know that the obvious answer is information is pretty much controlled by the media. How so? Just look at this and try to get the relation between how so. What is raw information at the end of the day? It's essentially stories from the ground, because we are regular humans. We can't be at a million places at the same time. So there's 1,000 things going on across various parts of the country or the world, and there's stories from the ground. So we can't be everywhere at the same time, right? We are not sarvavyapi, so to speak. There's a lot of history to why your present is a particular way. There's a lot of historic facts, and that is not always accessible or easily available to people, nor do people have inclination to go through and analyze all that. There's a lot of global dynamics in play, and there's a lot of cultural knowledge sitting out there. So that's your raw information, right? That's on one side. On the other side, we have society. Now, society is not equal. Society is usually never equal. Now, the communists might try to create that. It never happens. And ultimately, there's always a social pyramid, which is exactly what you see here on the slide. There's always people at the bottom of the ladder who are possibly, of course, the scales differ in different countries. So basically, a working poor in the US might be extremely different from a working poor in India. However, there are still social grades in any country. And ultimately, this society is basically too busy with everyday life, just like all of us. Now, a simple example here, there's 44 people on the group, almost all of who, as we all know, clearly support what we're trying to do here, of which 10 of them admittedly had interest that we absolutely want to attend this. And the result, finally, it's 3 people, okay, or 4 people if you count Prakshit, who unfortunately could not make it. But the fact remains that you are very busy with your everyday life, where let alone slicing, dicing, analyzing information, reading through bits and bytes of stuff and forming opinion yourself, you can't even maybe spare half an hour on a consistent basis, even if somebody's feeding you, right? So that's a fact. And one can't hold it against anyone. That's my fact, that is your fact, that's everybody's fact. We have stuff to do. We have to pay our bills, we have to carry on with our lives, and we have other things that are priorities. So we can't make processing raw information our priority. At least not all of us can. Some people are extremely interested, curious can, but not everybody can. So who acts as the gatekeeper here? We have no option but to let media act as the gatekeeper, for obvious reasons of us being handicapped because we're short of time. Now, most people think that media only means newspapers and TV. That's not the case. Media is all the avenues using which you consume information about all of these raw bits of data. So because you didn't have the time and inclination, or sometimes even the ability to actually make sense of these things, process these and create opinions, you rely on these guys. And these guys are not just TV channels and news channels. It's a combination of a lot of other things, right? It's web channels, because you also have news sites, cnnibn.com, ndtv.com, rediff.com. They're news sites. There's, of course, print media, which is the more traditional format, newspapers, Times of India, Indian Express, New Indian Express, Statesman, The Hindu, whatever the media is. There's television as such, because television is not restricted to just news. Anything and everything that feeds information about these aspects is still media. Even television serials are media, because they might be giving you more details around human stories, or soap operas, or even sometimes plain entertainment. So even that is a part of media, because that shapes your opinion, it shapes your mind. Your school curriculum, right? Anything that you read in books. And not necessarily just science and math, it could be all types of curriculum, because till we started branching out, most of us had a lot more subject than just science or math. Of course, there's movies, which are a huge opinion shaper and mind controlling factor. And then there's books, which are not necessarily school textbooks, but general fiction and non-fiction written by standalone authors. And there's museums. The last one, I would say, qualifies more for developed countries, pretty much unheard of in India, which we'll get to later. So these are basically your gatekeepers. So pretty much they're in an extreme position of power, if you look at it. They disseminate information to you. So they're in a very strong position of power. If you relate the previous slide to this slide, you'll see just how powerful they are, because we just said that the way information shapes an individual's opinion shapes the elected government, shapes your well-being. So clearly, people's well-being, ultimately, it's stuck here as to how well your information is controlled. And that to which part of the society? I don't have to target all of these folks. Like I keep saying, even the examples that I give sometimes on WhatsApp, if you go back 1200 years in history, the people who ruled us never outnumbered us. It was never a numbers game in that sense. Even if you consider the Mughal Empire, and this is not religion specific, it's a Mughal Empire. It's a Turkic Central Asian Empire. It's not to do with any one religion. But if you consider the Mughal Empire, the Mughal nobles were literally just one out of 7 or 8. Even worse was the British Empire, because there was only one Britisher who was literally inside the country for every 200 Indians out there. So was it a numbers game? No, never. The fact remained that as long as you could as long as you could control this portion of the society, which is the top echelons, like your bureaucrats, your intellectuals, the super rich, even the upper middle class, so to speak, those who are educated and have much more control over the other individuals in terms of shaping their thoughts, or at least being role models, all of that. That's basically who you want to target if you need to control the levers of power. That's the hard truth. That's basically how it has always worked, and it always will, right? So you just need to target these guys. And what does the media do? It exactly does that. Obviously, the media doesn't reach everyone. There's 30% of the people in UP, apparently, Amit Shah once said that, who have no access to a newspaper. They don't even know what a newspaper is. Now, if you think of it, India's literacy rate is it's touching 80 now, approximately. If don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere in the range of 75 and 80, not more than that. So when 20% of the people can't even read or write, you can't expect them to have access to media. And even, how people define literacy, right? It's not always whether you're well read. You just have to sign your name to be literate. So you can only imagine that, okay, a large percent of the population doesn't have access to even basic media. But does that matter? No. Though your mainstream media reaches only these guys control pretty much everything. So as long as you doctor information, drive agendas politically, provide only one-sided view of things, it makes it extremely easy for vested interests to control this. So if I'm a vested interest, for whatever reason, it could be ideological reasons, it could be religious reasons, it could be just financial reasons, right? I just want to dominate financially. I just want to dominate ideologically. I just want to dominate from a religious standpoint. It could be any of these, not necessarily one or the other. What I had to do, I just had to control these guys. The rest will just follow. It's the policy of control the shepherd if you want to control the sheep. That's basically how it works. So that is why we have taken this task upon us to explain what the backstory is, why it is dangerous, and how you can pretty much cut off these intermediaries in order to counter their biases. So that's the whole purpose of what we're doing here. So let's take a look at what the current state of the Indian media is, right? And I can get you much, much more detail. You yourself can go Google for stuff. You can always explore more stuff. But what I'm writing here are facts. These are plain facts. These are not doctored figures or statistics. The fact remains that most of the web channels, print media and television, which is basically, usually they're corporates, right, that own all three together. It's never one or the other. The same company that has a web channel, for example, CNNIBN.com, will also own a television channel, will also own some part of print media. So it's usually conglomerates. Let's face it, they're funded by political parties or external bodies with vested interests. Now, who they are, what they are, there's no point in going over in this particular session. Just understand the fact that they're not neutral, because the whole idea of media was to be neutral when it all started. It's called the third pillar of democracy, and it's supposed to be honest and completely neutral, present you with just facts so that way you can form your opinion. Never happened that way. Over time, obviously it became very asymmetric in information. So it's extremely asymmetric one-sided information. Now, of course, there will be skeptics. People will say, hey, I don't believe you, and why do you say that? And for them, I have extremely specific examples. I can produce much more. I can fill Encyclopedia Britannica with these examples. But just for simplicity's sake, and in order to ensure that we are done in a maximum of 45 minutes, I'll give you some extremely pointed examples, right? But the fact is, there's asymmetric information, there's political backing, which kind of defeats the purpose of a media. Now, how can you have political backers for media, which is supposed to be neutral? It just defeats the basic purpose altogether, which leads to what? It leads to irrational, emotional outrages, manufactured rhetoric, sometimes even white lies. And I'll show you exactly how. Fact twisting, all of these. Let's look at school curriculums. Now, of course, all of us have gone through school, so I kind of know what we are taught in the history textbooks. And till I started reading stuff on my own, started thinking independently, I pretty much believed in all the biases that the curriculum taught me, unfortunate as it might be. Now, when you go to understanding why so, you'll realize that there's only one type of people that have been writing history textbooks. It has not been a diverse pool of people providing a multi-dimensional, multi-faceted perspective of things. It has been only one type of people. Again, like I said, not getting into which type of people, but it has been very specific, just one type of people that have been writing your school textbooks with specific agendas in mind. What's the result? The result is a very selective glorification of certain leaders. You will see that if you actually start reading and if you analyze very neutrally and objectively, our history had a lot of different types of leaders, but I only see glorification of specific types of leaders here. There's absolute distortion of facts sometimes. For example, the Aryan invasion theory has been scientifically proven to be untrue by using genetic testing. Now, why is that still being taught in textbooks, right? Now, there have been a lot of dark episodes of genocide. We don't have to blame any community for that, or we don't have to get angry with the present set of people. However, we can't delete out those portions from history. Now, Jews are taught about the Holocaust that they have gone through. In the USA, we do read about how Native Indians were eliminated from the mainland. Does that mean that Native Indians here have anger towards the Caucasians that live? I haven't seen anything like that. Does it mean that Israel is planning to attack Germany because of those things and there's a disharmony between them? No, it's a part of history. They've learned from it, they've forgotten it. But if you delete those facts, what just follows is confusion, chaos, and the potential of that happening all over again. But they're doing it, as we all know, right? They're doing it in the school textbooks. Now, any positives related to your culture, they blot it out. Why are we not taught more about incumbent kingdoms like Vijayanagar, like the Ahoms of Assam, like the 100 other kings that existed before Ghazni invaded, or even about the military victories that happened post-Ghazni till the British invaded, right? So I have never read about all of those except outside of my textbook. Why would you do that, right? I would assume that the whole purpose of learning history is, one, to learn from your mistakes, and second, to understand what positives you had. But neither is happening here. It's a brain-dead curriculum which limits itself to match the following and some spoon-fed facts, one-sided again. So we had to think about why all that happened, because it was driven by specific types of interest. Now again, look at movies. We all know what the main source of funding for the mainstream movies are. Harsh as it might be, the fact is there is underworld funding, and if somebody makes a case that underworld is pro-national, that would be laughable if you ask me. We don't even have a case there. The underworld obviously has an anti-national interest. Why would it be the underworld otherwise? Right? So what's the result of this? Now, some alternative movies are fine. It's not that every movie is funded by the underworld, but notice what kind of movies the underworld funds. The ones that have the potential to reach the masses. Now, if certain art movies or alternative movies or niche audience movies are not funded, does it matter so much? No, because again, that's only a limited audience that goes to theaters and watches and appreciates movies like those. So the ones that are really touching the 300, 400 crore marks with the big name actors, which are actually getting into the theaters, what kind of things do they preach? Again, we all know it's excessive focus on the negatives of one particular type of people, the excessive focus on positives of a different type of people, a false sense of equanimity, which in reality never happens. All of that is happening slowly and surely, right? And then there's books and museums. Now, thankfully, books are not completely affected by this virus. However, it doesn't have too much of a reach either. Now, how many people do you know actively read books and think about them and have a voracious reading habit? I would say handful. I would say the same percentage of people that turned up for this talk is the percentage of people that I know who would actually go and read books. Most people are not designed for that. They just have to get by with regular life. They don't go and read books. Museums, I personally have only seen maybe 2 good museums in India. Maybe there's more, but I can tell you which ones. I've seen the one in Hyderabad, and that's about it. Even the Prince of Wales Museum is not that great. If I compare it with any half-decent museum in the Western world, it doesn't even compare. So museums are non-existent. So they are not a valid way of getting information in India. And I'm pretty positive even if they were, right, they would have been twisted with the same agenda. Let me give an example. Like one of the people that I like and follow, Francois Gauthier, is trying to build a museum of Indian history and history as it happened instead of trying to create or manufacture history. And at least he says he's facing such an unimaginable amount of problems just to have like a very basic, and we're not talking about the Met kind of museum here, right? That's a different league altogether. I've seen the photographs. It's like a basic structure just outside of Pune. And it's such an honest attempt from him to showcase our history in the way it happened. But even that is a problem. So you can only imagine that the real museums, we are at least a century away from all that. So we can't even expect that. Now, how does social media counter all this, right? So now we saw basically why information is important, how it shapes public opinion, and why one can mess with you if they can effectively control media. So what do we do to counter that? It's easy. So notice this, right? Let's keep everything else exactly the same. There's a busy society that doesn't have time to analyze slice and dice data. There's upper class and upper middle which has to be controlled in order to control the rest of the society. And there's raw information which was sitting exactly as it was sitting. What do I change? I just change these folks in the center to what suits us better or our interest better. And that is basically what we have to propagate and convince other people to do so. And like I said, the second half will be why, how, and all of that. But you really need to understand the mechanics or the backstory of all of this to be able to convince people even to start thinking on those lines. If you're not able to do it like this, right, forget about the fact that people listen to you, because people are already, you saw all this. You saw how extensive the reach is, how much they've gotten into the brains of people. So do you think a population that has been brainwashed right from childhood would just listen to you like a messiah because you had a few pretty looking slides or a few points to say? Not really. So you really need to have an extremely logical case for yourself. A simple example here is, and here I'll be taking names, showing my bias, but that's okay because all of us have our opinions and we're entitled to it. It will take Narendra Modi to be at least 100 times better than Rahul Gandhi to be on equal footing. That's basically how it is. So for you guys to make a case for yourself, you have to be 100 times better than the regular Adarsh liberal in order to make your case. And you won't be able to do that unless you can present it like this, which is why I'm trying to create that in more people, right? So you need all this backstory. Now, what do? We just replace the mainstream media with this social media thing here. Why social media? What benefit does it give me? Because now I'm eliminating the vested interest, right? I'm completely eliminating people from the equation. All this is technology. This has nothing to do with people. Twitter itself cannot be biased. Facebook itself cannot be biased. People using that can be biased. However, then it's completely an equal footing, right? It's no longer one side having a disproportionate high power in terms of controlling information than the other. Now, both parties have access to the same tools, have access to the same features and same raw information underlying, and it's completely a fight amongst equals now. So you're not disproportionately handicapped, which you were before if you plainly relied on mainstream media in order to fight your battles. Because all these are technology platforms. They are unfiltered, which means it comes from the horse's mouth, at least so far. I know some people do ask me that even these can eventually be controlled by vested interests. What about then? But that time has not come yet, right? Let's worry about that when we get there. Why worry about that now? Now, at least, let's try to focus on how to use it. Then we'll see how to avoid vested interests taking over even social media. But at least as of today, how it stands, it's unfiltered. It gives you multiple perspectives. For example, if I go and look for somebody who has a right-wing opinion, I get that. If somebody has a left-wing opinion, I get that. If somebody has a neutral opinion, I get that. As against media, which only spoon feeds me what they want to feed me. it is different individuals, and it is difficult for vested interests to control. And last but not least, the beautiful part is this also targets the same top 5% which eventually controls the society. Ultimately, you can't expect the working poor or daily subsistence workers to be using WhatsApp or Twitter, at least not now. So again, it's still targeting the same set of people that the mainstream media was targeting. So now it's completely a battle of equals. As long as you guys who are in this top 5%, as long as you guys kind of become evangelists for these folks out here, you are equipped with the right necessary tools to fight the battle against mainstream media. So that's where it all starts. Now, before I move to explaining how Twitter works, how to use Twitter in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve here, would any of you guys want to make a comment, or not so much a question because we're just having a conversation here, but even a question is fine. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Or we have other folks here. We have other folks who can maybe try to give it a start. It's more of a conversation. So would any of you guys have anything to say? I won't open the chat window because I don't want the names to show up. So if anybody wants to just unmute yourself and speak up, please feel more than free. Else I can just start with how Twitter works, and we'll get to the technical aspects of it as to how Twitter works. Okay, so I gather everybody was pretty comfortable with what they've heard so far. So what is this thing Twitter, right? And how is it different? And what I'll do is in a minute, I'll be actually opening a Twitter account and showing a dummy Twitter account, of course, and I'll be showing you how some of these things actually work. So let me get off the slideshow mode, and then I'll resume once we go over basically what is Twitter, how it works, why you should really be on it, and not just be on it, you should be convincing others to be on it, more importantly, because that's the whole purpose of this meeting. This is not information dissemination, right? This is more of preaching to the choir. I kind of know that you guys are already aligned with this, so I just want you guys to have enough information and be equipped to propagate this further. So let us see how Twitter even works, right? Now, before I get there, now what's the difference? And these are questions that have plagued me too. I'm personally a technophile, as a technophobe. I'm sure those of you who know me will understand that fact. I'm not a tech-savvy person. I do not jump to every new technology. I have a lot of problems getting adapted to new technologies, which is a bad thing, but it is just what it is, right? That's how I am, so I can't help it. However, these were the exact same questions which kind of plagued me when I got started. So things like we already have Facebook and WhatsApp. What is this new Twitter thing? Why do I need this? So I already have YouTube. Okay, I understood that those are, again, all of them are pretty user friendly, but I already have them. So though Twitter just being user friendly is not enough of a business case for me to jump onto it. What more? Now, the beauty here is it's inclusion versus exclusion, right? And it took me a while to realize this. Now, because I'm trying to explain this to you in so many words, you guys might have a shorter learning curve, but it took me a while to understand this. Why Twitter? Now, inclusion versus exclusion. Let's try to understand what that means. It means that in Facebook or WhatsApp or even email, I would consider email also as social media because it gives you a chance to interact with others and exchange information, which otherwise would not have been possible. You would only have been listening to TV or newspaper and considering whatever information is available in TV and newspaper as undebatable fact. Your opinions and debates would happen based on what you consider fact. But now we know that's not the truth. They don't even present you facts. So that's why email is also a valid social media. But in any of these, right, in Facebook or WhatsApp or email, essentially you are limited to people you know. It's by means of inclusion. So you have to add people as friends on your Facebook page. You have to add people on WhatsApp as part of your group. You have to physically type in the emails of people if you want to reach a particular audience. It is not open to the whole wide world out there. Just because you are on Facebook or because you're on WhatsApp, the whole wide world cannot go and listen to you. It's a closed network. It's more of inclusion of closed people, of closed groups of like-minded friends. And it's more, as the name suggests, it's more for social media. The concept is not so much for ideological war of words, but it's more for what am I doing, where am I going next, my photographs of my kids, or what a good time I'm having with my friends or with my wife. So it's more about that. Now, of course, it's a technology platform and you can use it in any way that pleases you. However, the fundamental purpose has kind of been aligned that way, and most of the features are more aligned for that to happen. Additionally, you do not have much of a reach because you don't want the whole wide world to be on your Facebook page because of reasons of privacy, because you put your photographs out there, you put some other details of you out there. Not the case with Twitter, right? Twitter was not exactly designed to uh, be just among friends. It's a method of exclusion where once you start tweeting, or if you have a Twitter account, pretty much anybody can follow you. Like, I don't have to be personally friends with let's take an example. So Shashi Tharoor, for example. I don't have to be friends with Shashi Tharoor for me to go onto his Twitter account and see what's going on there. I don't have to be friends with Barkha Dutt to to start following her on Twitter and see what she has to say. I don't have to be friends with whoever. Let's take a different name. Maybe Arvind Kejriwal, that matter. Not that I want to be his friend, but even if I wanted to be his friend, I don't think I'll be able to be a friend on his Facebook. So here it gives me the ability to see in real time how some of the people who are shaping opinions, public personalities, those who matter, are thinking, what they're saying, and it gives me a digital trail of all of that. So if they do any double speak, or if they do any hypocrisy, or if they do any white lies, I have means of catching them, which I absolutely do not have in any other type of media, including Facebooks or WhatsApp, because I can just ban people from making comments, or I won't put myself out there, which is not the case with Twitter, right? So that ability is there. So that's where the difference in Twitter, because now what happens is it's a medium which people are not predominantly using to display their social life or their successes. Now for that, they already have Facebook. Twitter, they're predominantly using to broadcast their thoughts. Hence, people are a little more free about what they write there in terms of thoughts only. Now, not that they can't post pictures of themselves, but it's not aligned that way. And not only that, you can go and follow them, which means you can follow different types of people and get your information from multiple places. So your Twitter homepage becomes your newspaper. You can stop completely depending on your newspapers or your websites and consider them as the ultimate truth. Your Twitter homepage becomes your newspaper. In a minute, I'll show you all of this. So just bear with me for 2 minutes. So basically, what are the fundamental features of Twitter? It's essentially create an account, and it's extremely simple. You follow people and read their tweets. If you are active enough, I am not, but some people who have at least those who have some valuable thoughts to give. Maybe I do not. I'm a lay person. I don't have that much intelligent thought to broadcast. So, but if you are that type, you can tweet yourself, have a good amount of followers who will rebroadcast your message to the rest of the world, so that more people will follow you. You can create content. There's a 140 character maximum. However, nobody stops you from putting hyperlinks, videos, still images, and making a case for yourself, right? And second, of course, there's interaction also, which I do minimally. There's no need for that, but there's message boxes. You can respond to people who have posted something. That's what they call trolling, right? Sometimes. And think of it like this. If, say, tomorrow a journalist posts something that you find rather obnoxious, in TV or in the website, you couldn't have done much about it. You would just have swallowed your frustration. You would have just said that, okay, jhoota insaan hai, kuch bhi bolta hai, doesn't make sense. But it stops there, right? It stops within the confines of your four walls with the friend you're talking to or your spouse that you're talking to, and your frustration ends there. Out here, you can give a rebuttal, and all of that, we'll see how it works. You can go to that page and say that, hey, I don't agree with you, and present your case too. So when a third person who's seeing what that celebrity has posted in your post below that, combating them or rebutting them, they get both perspectives. Now you're not limited to not being able to fight back anymore. You can fight back, right? So that's the beauty of it. So let's take a quick look at how some of that works here. This is basically a dummy Twitter page I created, just for example's sake. It's extremely simple to create, so you don't have to worry about learning to create. Just like you put your username, you set up a password, you link it to any email ID that you might have, and just like how any social media works, this works. So this is how your page looks like, right? This is the main page. So what I do in the very beginning, my friend here helped me set up the people that I need to follow. So basically, these are the people I'm following. Now, I agree that not all of them were completely driven by me. So somebody helped me with that. But need not be the case with everyone. You can decide who you want to follow. So I recently just started following Trump for fun. I'm following Barkha to see what kind of things are going on in her mind. There's IBN7. There's also Shivaru. I think he's a great journalist, but that's not getting into details of who's good, who's not. I'm even following Raghuram for that matter. He's a hardcore AAP guy, right? So see the mix here. You can see it on my wall right here. So if you think I'm more inclined towards right-wing ideology, that's somebody would say I have more left-wingers here. I have Barkhadat here. I have Raghuram. I have Donald Trump, who represents the American right wing. There's lots of other types of people. There's Nikhil Wagle, who's extremely a left-wing socialist journalist, right? So there's all types of people. And if you notice, that's basically who I'm following. So what happens is, whatever these guys are talking about, and there's a reason for each of these. So if I thought that somebody has something to offer, I followed them. Once I have set this up, right, once I have like 50, 60, 100, 200, whatever number of people I'm following, this becomes my newspaper. So whatever I see here is basically the people that I'm following, that's what they're tweeting about. So all these tweets appear here, and I know, so see here, nice historic pics. Somebody is giving me Indian history pics. So somebody here is feeding me Indian history pics, which I would never have found in the good newspaper also. There's some random food stuff, that okay, what kind of food is trending or whatever. There's new stuff, okay. Then there's some joke here, exclusive picture of a secular Indian journalist couple. Why chameleons? Because they change color all the time. Haha. So that's the joke here, right? So there'll be jokes, there'll be taunts, there'll be actual information, there'll be good history-based pictures, there'll be travel information, there'll be fights and counterfights happening between the people I follow and how people are fighting back with other facts. So all this will appear right on my wall. I don't have to do much. If I have the application on my cell phone, I can see all of this with my cell phone also, which is what I have actually. I have it on my cell phone. So you guys keep asking me, right? Where do I get all the information from? Akshay to bada gyani hai. Now you know I am not the gyani here. Twitter is the gyani here. I am just cut pasting this and putting on your WhatsApp. And that's exactly what you will be doing going ahead once you have a Twitter account. So all whatever you're seeing is all, and sometimes for those of you who know me, you know I'm an information junkie. So little bits of information like that. There is a Melanesian people from South Pacific who have black skin and blue eyes. So I like all these kind of relevant information also, right? So because I follow people a particular way, all this is directly spoon-fed to me on my wall. Now I have no dependency on NDTV, IBN. I have no dependency on Times of India or anti-national papers like Indian Express. I have no dependency on them. I get my own facts. I can see both sides of the coin. I do my own thinking. I figure out what is right and what is wrong. And if somebody is propagating white lies, I'm in a good position to catch them and counter them. Okay, so that's basically how your wall looks like. Next, what next, right? So this is by far the most important features. For most passive users like me, this is basically it. I don't tweet and stuff. I just retweet. So whatever I like, I retweet. So that's one other thing, right? So if you think you like any of this, just like you do a thumbs up in Facebook, you do a retweet. So I'll just click this. So I'll just do a retweet. Not because I really like this, but just to show you guys what this was. Favorite is basically for your own self. So favorite doesn't rebroadcast it to the world. It's mostly for you to go back and see what kind of things you would like. Whereas retweet means that you are also rebroadcasting it to people that follow you. Now, I happen to have 113 followers. God alone knows how that happened because I'm not active or anything. This is a dummy profile. This is just to check the news and retweet whenever I want to feel like having fun. But in spite of that, I ended up having some random 113 people come and follow me. So what happens if I retweet this, right? All these 113 people will be able to see. So if for whatever reason, if this guy was not on their list of people that they're following, they'll still be able to now see. So information gets spread like this. So that's, and anything like a hashtag out here means that it's trending. So if you want a particular type of information to be in the top trends, you retweet and retweet till it gets to the top, and people in corridors of power watch all this closely. So they know if something is trending at the top, they know that they have to cater to those kind of issues. So what yesterday would have been a completely one-sided game, now you're able to trend things at the top and bring it to the ears of elected representatives, because they're watching all this closely as to what people are thinking, what people are wanting, how what are the social dynamics, what will help us get more votes. They're all actively monitoring all this. So your voice effectively can be heard better now. Now, if you're the types who also wants to have something intelligent to say to the world, of course, you can use this tweet function, right? You can compose your tweet. So I will say test tweet for fun while teaching people. I do that and I just say tweet and it comes here. Now, who is able to see this? All these 113 people will get something similar on their wall, saying that, okay, some random guy, dummy guy, is test tweeting for fun. Maybe he's teaching people. So doesn't matter much. So even while I was writing that, see, more tweets on my wall. So Amir Khusro, 13th century Sufi musician, poet. So that's how it works. That's random bits of information from here and there, depending on who you want to follow. So that's the fundamentals of Twitter, and that's how I would say it scales up better than Facebook or WhatsApp in terms of information gathering. Now, does it help me if I want to maybe show people how a good vacation that I had in Hawaii, or how cute my kid is, or maybe what breakfast I'm having today? Maybe not. That clearly, as you see here, that's not the intent of this medium, which is why I specifically targeted Twitter for explaining to you guys, because we all know how Facebook works, how WhatsApp works, and that's more for literal social interaction. So this clearly now, as you guys know, right, is more for information gathering. So now the last 5 minutes of some examples, specific pointed examples, right? So now see here, now you know basically why we needed all this. That was the first part of my talk, where I explained to you why this matters. Even if you think that yours is a regular life, you just have to pay the bills and enjoy over the weekend, watch a movie or two. If you're outgoing types, you go to a good place to eat or something. Why bother with all this? I showed you why bother with all this, because your ability to pay for the good places you eat in, the ability to maybe have a good life, maybe not get stuck in traffic jams while driving there, all depends on your elected representative. So we saw all that, right? And that's why it's all important. Then we saw the features of Twitter. So we saw, okay, how is it is different from other social media? What kind of things to look out for here? I also showed you a literal Twitter page, how this serves as your newspaper, and how you get different types of information that the media would have completely shunned, and how some of the essential features works. What is hashtag, how you respond to people. That is something I didn't show you. For example, let's say this Ajay Al-Sunni. Okay, so if I want to say comment on this guy, if I want to say great tweet or I support you or something like that. So let me show you how I would have done that, right? So, okay. So I would have just gone here. I would have said, Twitter automatically has said @Ajay. I would have said, great job. Keep up the good work. I would have said. So my thing appears below here. So everybody who sees his tweet also see that, okay, people are supporting him. Now let's go and see what Miss Barkhadat is saying these days. Right? Let's go and see what she's saying.
So I just want to add one small point.
Sure, Uday.
It's that a big differentiating factor between Facebook and Twitter is that on Facebook, when you share a status message, typically by Facebook's own admission, only 6% or definitely less than 10% of your entire friend network actually sees it on first glance, and that number is increased depending on how that status actually gets interaction from people. So if it's a completely useless message, or so-called useless by Facebook's understanding, nobody will actually see it, or a very, very small number of people will see it. Whereas on Twitter, when you post that same message, Twitter's algorithm is very straightforward and transparent. Everybody who's following you will see it. If they're opening the app, whether on a mobile or on the desktop, they are guaranteed to see it. And that's one of the things that makes Twitter a lot more transparent as a platform than Facebook, which has all its algorithms to decide what it should show people and what it should not. Hey, I'm done.
Okay, so thanks for that. So basically, to continue with that example, right? So say 2 years ago, if you saw Barkhadat saying something on TV which was absolutely atrocious, which you thought was not very logical, you couldn't do much. Now see what you can do. So if she says that, okay, here, let me show you. So, okay. Okay, so I click on the details here. So she said that, okay, we on NDTV, 22 years on, maximum city, minimum justice. This is kind of against the death penalty. So here you can go and give rebuttals to her. So you can say justice delayed, justice denied, and there's you can maybe pass a sarcastic comment. You can pass a factual comment which kind of counters her. So I, as a neutral audience, I'm able to see what Barkhadat is saying, and I'm also able to see the other perspectives down here. If somebody is providing a rebuttal, it's very obvious and very clear to me. So no longer one-sided anymore. So that's basically a quick demo of Twitter's capabilities, what you can do, cannot do, and how it works for you. And now going to quick specifics, right? And I'll just take 5 minutes and then we'll be done. After, of course, I'll stop recording, but we guys can hang out for more time if you want to, or if you have things to do, that's fine too. So some very specific pointed examples, right? So look at media subliminal messaging here. So let me do a slideshow once again. So look at media subliminal messaging here. So if you see, anytime maybe Mr. Rahul Gandhi makes a speech, there's always some good positive adjectives. Okay, Rahul Gandhi, hot speech on hearing prayer call from mosque. Rejuvenated Rahul Gandhi gives new hope for Congress. So you notice that always adjectives like youth icon, rejuvenated, wins hearts, floors audience, that's the kind of adjectives that mostly people will be using. Of course, what we use is something different for him, but that's basically, if you notice media, how it will be using. The same thing, say tomorrow if a different leader, we all know who, how they will describe him, what kind of adjectives they'll use. It will be a hardliner, polarizing, controversial leader, or vacuous or something like that. It will never be a positive image, right? So over time, what it does, it over time skews the mind one way or the other. That's the mind game being played here. Let's take one more example of subliminal messaging, right? So any spiritual leader that is even illogically framed sometimes, and sometimes maybe correctly framed. However, look at the coverage that you get when they're framed. This statistics tells it all. Like 356 hours of coverage when Jayendra Saraswati was defamed. 3 minutes of coverage when he was acquitted. So it's called lie big and retract small. And you completely hide any crimes of other types of religious leaders, and you only focus on one type of them. So notice what kind of words they use if they're talking about Hindu spiritual leaders. It's always self-styled, controversial godman, things like those, right? But if it's Zakir Naik or John Dayal, they'll address them as Islamic scholar or Christian scholar. So again, very, very skewed information. What does this do to your psychology? Over time, it kind of creates a self-hate. You feel very comfortable mocking your own spiritual leaders, but you will feel very hesitant if you are to raise your voice against legitimate problems of other communities, which is not good. I would say either or. You either are open about both, or you're completely hiding both. A skewed opinion is never good, regardless of who you're trying to bias against here, right? The way in which Twitter exposes this, and see how beautifully Twitter exposed this. Now, human brain can only process one bit of information at a time. So today, if I hear Sagarika Ghosh maybe praising Rahul Gandhi, and after 20 days, if I hear her maybe deriding Modi for a good speech that he had given, I won't be able to register her bias as such. Okay, subconsciously, yes, but not very directly, logically like this. Now, see what Twitter did for me. Here, clearly, we all know the better orator here, and we all know who the better administrator is here. There's no doubt. Even the biggest skeptic will never have a doubt on who the better orator is here. But look at how they describe, and these are senior journalists. There's Barkhadat, there's Sagarika Ghosh, there's Pallavi Ghosh. Look how they're beautifully describing Rahul Gandhi's speech. Rahul's best speech so far, systems change, inclusion, voice. Then found Rahul Gandhi's emotional candor the most moving aspect. And see, for a wonderful speech, how they're describing Modi's speech. Modi's speech, very political. Wonder whether this is the right forum for this. At SRCC, we heard Modi speak about cotton salt, blah, blah, blah. But his big ideas, challenges facing India, question mark. So Modi's SRCC sounds the bugle for national innings. Question is, why is BJP coy? So it's always questioning, deriding, or playing it down. So notice the bias that is extremely obvious here. Would you be able to do it on mainstream media? No, not many of us would have been able to do this. We wouldn't have been able to present our case easily like this if we did not have something like Twitter. More examples, right? Selective communal rhetoric and lies. Sometimes white lies, sometimes twisting of fact. There was 2 incidents, right? One is where a techie from Infosys was found murdered in Pune. Again, both of them in Pune, and see how the difference is. Just 4 days apart from one another. Then there's another incident, this happened around a year ago, where there was again a techie beaten to death in Pune. In one case, it is Infosys techie from Bathinda found murdered in Pune. Neutral, toned down. In other case, Muslim techie beaten to death by Hindu outfit. Now, you either name, do you want to criminalize everything? Do you want to give all crimes a religious flavor like this? You either do it for everything then, or you don't do it for anything. So these kind of selective communal rhetorics, right? Other example. Now, without any proof, without any logic, without any rationale, Ghar Wapsi behind nuns rape. This was a nuns rape that had happened in West Bengal. And there was a huge rhetoric that ran for weeks in the Indian media about how minorities are under threat, how Christians are being attacked, and every little incident, whichever involved a church in a country of 1.2 billion people, was put in the headlines, and even very significant people like Julia Roberio and Sushil Kumar were roped in. Now, funnily, all of the allegations turned out to be false. Most of them happened to be a personal grudge or some petty thief trying to steal money from a place, or boys playing cricket that broke the pane of a church. And the worst part, in this nun rape case, where they were alleging that Ghar Wapsi elements are involved, it happened to be Bangladeshi illegals that had done it. They were caught and confessed. After that happened, complete silence, right? I would say this is not just distortion of fact, this is a white lie. Now, how would Twitter have countered that? Like this. Here, Arun Jaitley comes and says very clearly that now I have proved that most church attacks are not communal. Will media tell the truth now? And see what the media was saying. Christians say that they're under siege in India after nuns rape, church attacks. White lie and distortion. There's Kiran Rijiju, right? That's a minister from the Northeast. Now, what he said was, I personally do not eat beef. My family does not eat it. And if somebody feels like, the constitution provides that freedom. But I do not. Now, what Hindustan Times reported, I eat beef. Can somebody stop me? Rijiju retorts to Naqvi's statement. Naqvi is one politician, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, for the BJP. And he had supported the beef ban in spite of being a Muslim. And the media was out to get him for that. So they had to have something where an outsider comes and tells them that stop me from eating beef. Completely false. How did I provide a rebuttal? Kiran Rijiju went on Twitter and said that, hey, this is what I said. Media is unnecessarily highlighting wrong things. So here now you have a chance of coming back and getting back at it. Before you couldn't do that. Yesterday's incident, right? Salman Khan's dad, Salim Khan, had an extensive interview with Raghib Sardesai. Never in the interview did he play the minority card. He was absolutely blunt about the fact that he doesn't host iftar parties, doesn't wear skull cap, and he doesn't care if others do not. Now, instead of encouraging that, he was unnecessarily grilled on why doesn't he feel that Modi is communal. He said, I do not feel. What is your problem? In spite of him saying that, the headlines was Salman Khan being targeted for his religion, Salim Khan. Now, somebody on Twitter said that listen to the entire video. India Today is a liar. Salim Khan didn't say anything on those lines. Again, a white lie, right? One more example. I have personally heard this speech on YouTube. Amit Shah said that it will take 25 years to make India number one. The media realizes that the Achhe Din rhetoric is the Achilles heel, right? And people are emotional about that fact. So what do they report? Amit Shah said Achhe Din will come only in 25 years. Thus, kind of hinting that it was a poll promise and they're doing nothing towards it. So, but now people can, I think this lady is like very active on Twitter. She says, another TOI hit job, which Times of India hit job. They spin out of compulsion, we expose out of habit. Game continues, results remain unchanged, right? So she has clearly said that this is what Amit Shah said and this is what they're writing. So now you have a chance to get back at them. Now, yesterday's incident, right? Like the day before yesterday. A terrorist was hanged. Now what is there to sympathize in that? And then on the same day, a president dies from the same religious community and who has done wonders for the country. Now we'll see who's getting how much coverage, right? And they apparently hang the Yaqub Menon. Who is they now? And APJ gets like this much space. At least he got this much. I've heard that a lot of papers put him in the third page or something. Times of India says that night without end, death at dawn, melodrama, sympathy, everything is being generated here. Now, there's a lot of liberal Muslims out there. There's a lot of them. It's not what they make it seem like. There's Tariq Fatah, there's Taslim Nasrin, there's Tufail Ahmed. Have you ever seen these guys on those TV debates, panels? Have they ever been represented as representatives of the community? Not really. Why do they do that? Now, what's the point in propagating Owaisi or Gilani as a representative of the community? Does it do any good to the community? Zero. It doesn't result in development. It doesn't result in adapting to the modern world. It doesn't help in any way. But regardless, the media folks keep doing it. Now, things like Kashmir Valley, nobody knows that it's only 1/3 of J&K. There's only one small part of the population that is pro-Azadi or pro-Pakistan. Now, the amount of coverage that they get is almost 90% of the media. Now, why do we never get to hear that there's also other people opposing them? Why don't we ever get to hear that there's a Balochistan freedom movement going on in Pakistan, which is what we should be bothered about more? Never heard any struggles about Tibetan people in the media. Why is the constant portrayal of only one section of the valley time and again, and giving so much real estate in media space to Yasin Malik or Gilani or people who are separatists? Doesn't again make sense. Now, what Twitter does, Twitter gives voices to these people who are actually liberals who want to adapt and change, who have some very smart thoughts to give, but the media never let them do that. So now you can go to the pages, see what they're trying to say, and see what thoughts they have. So that way you have like a balanced opinion, right? Same with like a journalist called Gaurav Samant, a person called Tapan Ghosh, who's in the ground in Bengal exposing Mamata Banerjee in Derek O'Brien. Now, you would never have heard him on TV. They never allow him to come on TV. But here, I have that choice now. Hypocrisy, right? Hypocrisy and doublespeak. Wonderfully exposed by Twitter. Sanjay Jha, abusing Kalam 2 years ago. Sanjay Jha, 2 days ago, calling him an outstanding genius just because he died, right? But here he's exposed now. Rajdeep Sardesai. So, Tuktuki Mandal case, it was an abduction and rape of a Hindu girl in Bengal. When she was finally, after much social media agitation, she was got back. Rajdeep Sardesai, instead of questioning the aggressors, questions the victim. They said, looks like she was beaten by her father. Now, I'll get to that case some other time. It is blatant lie. But the same Rajdeep Sardesai, in the same Bengal, when the nun rape happened, says, oh, Mother Superior wants rapists to be forgiven. Can we first arrest and convict them, please? Now, doublespeak, hypocrisy. Arvind Kejriwal, right? A couple of years ago, Sheila Dixit response after each rape. What can I do? Delhi police is not in my control. Do we want such a helpless CM? Now, what does he do today? There was a girl, similar case. She was stabbed to death for resisting molestation. He says, this is shocking. Delhi police directly under PM. PM should spare a few hours every week to assess capital's law and order. Now, what happened to a helpless PM, right? So this doublespeak would never have been exposed if not for Twitter. Same example here. Won't get into this detail, but there's this guy Raghuram who keeps abusing all the time on MTV Roadies. But suddenly, because somebody said something to his friend Shruti Seth, he suddenly turns all nice and says, hey, please stop the abuse, and this abuse will be counterproductive and all that. But look at the kind of language he uses otherwise, right? So again, doublespeak here. Finally, I'll end by saying that a lot of people get very uncomfortable when they listen to all this, because that's not what they've been conditioned since childhood. So they instantly ask you, oh, this is all about religion and ideology. Or so is this all about? Just show them this picture. Just show them this picture. Ask them, what do you think? I won't call out religions here. I'll just call out the names here. There is Zakir Naik, there's Zakir Hussain. There's Tarun Tejpal, there's Vikram Batra. There's Bindran Wale, there's Milkha Singh. There's John Dayal, there's Leander Pace. Now you decide who is what religion here and who you support and who you don't support. If you think that all this is only about religion or ideology, just go and think about this photograph. We won't call out the religions. Everybody knows what we're talking about. So convince them that, okay, this is basically what the idea is. It's only about supporting people that work in your interest and who like you, and opposing people that work against your interest. Twitter is nothing but a technology platform. You can do whatever you want with it, but it basically makes you ideology free and gives you a level playing ground. Now, final thing, is that all Twitter does? Is it only about an intense ideological war of words for serious people who only have these kind of things to discuss about? Not at all. You can do whatever you please. In fact, I've given some examples here. Extremely silly kind of humor. There's a Garib Aadmi Ki Atma who puts funny tweets out there. I like it. I have it. I personally, I'm heavily into program project management, delivery management. So I have a professional group also, project management group. I love to travel. So there's Travel and Leisure, which is again a group which gives you travel tips on and off. There's knowledge sharing. You might know I'm a history buff. So India's Golden Age. So now this guy had a wonderful tweet, 1,000 Mughals and 1,000 tweets. So little tidbits of information out there. Corporations, right? I can choose to follow whatever corporation I want to, just to see if there's an openings out there, what their thoughts are, what their trends are. And for those, though it's not personally my choice, at least not Kim Kardashian, but for those who are into reality TV shows, entertainment, celebrity gossip, even that is available. Now this woman has 34 million followers, right? So even she can effectively make use of Twitter for her PR. So it is not only about right-wingers, left-wingers, Indian politics, serious stuff. It's a platform that can be used for many things. It all depends on your creativity and how much use you want to make out of it. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys. Next steps for you, I would highly recommend create a Twitter account right away. I'll tell you offline who to follow. Basically, you just follow me first and see whoever I'm following, add them to begin with. that'll get you going. After that, just try playing around with the features, see how it's useful to you. If you ask me, it takes a month or so to actually realize what its value is and actually start making use of that. Again, depends on how much time and inclination you have. But it takes anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to understand the whole value proposition here. Though I have explained to you whatever I could, but still, there's nothing in this world that doesn't come with a small learning curve. But you have to go through it. There's no other option. And if at all you're the types who has a lot of things to say, you can also tweet yourself. I do not, but you guys can. So that's basically it, guys. So that's basically what I wanted to share. And with that, I'll just stop recording. And we can either continue with our day today, or if you guys have something to say or discuss, we can also do that. But thank you all for coming. I'll be putting this up on YouTube as well, and we'll be having more of this. So we'll be having a lot more of this, depending on people's participation, interest levels, or even if people do not turn up, if I have the time, I'll just continue with this because there's YouTube in any case. So thanks once again, and I hope this was not only useful but also fun for you guys and informative, most importantly. Thank you.